There's not many places on the old Boston and Maine in this part of New Hampshire more beautiful and peaceful than this. It's a place where the railroad, albeit unused for many years, remains, prompting thoughtfulness about the once mighty importance it held, and maybe could still hold. This is Bennington, New Hampshire. The railroad reached Bennington around 1874, when the Peterborough and Hillsborough extended its line up from the south towards Hillsborough. Bennington was typical of many rural towns in New England, and the railroad allowed for passenger travel as well as a small amount of freight from various local and public delivery. Regular passenger service came to an end in 1936, but passenger trains did return on several occasions, namely railroad enthusiast fan trips. On June 6, 1954, a passenger excursion was operated utilizing Alco diesel switchers. Excursionists rode in several of the Boston and Maine's American Flyer coaches. Another fan trip was run on May 4, 1968, using a train of Budd RDCs. During the 1970s, the Boston and Maine ran a number of inspection trips for the New Hampshire Public Utilities Commission, and a single Budd car, an RDC-2 number 6212, was used. Finally, on April 22, 1983, the Crotched Mountain Limited excursion ran to Bennington from Boston using, surprisingly, MBTA passenger equipment. But much like other towns in New England, the rail service in Bennington for many decades was freight-based, and Hillsborough had a dominant industry which accounted for quite a bit of railroad business, paper making. Bennington is located at the Great Falls of the Kentucky River, which drops 70 feet over 1.2 miles and provided water power for mills. Shortly after the War of 1812, a paper mill opened here on the banks of the river, utilizing that water power. The mill operated without rail service until this line opened in the 1870s, and larger machinery was added to the mill as a result. The mill was named Monadnock Paper in the 1870s after the famous mountain located not far from here. Monadnock Paper provided the bulk of rail service for the town of Bennington and received coal on its plant trestle as well as shipped out completed product. For many years, Bennington's primary railroad landmark was its wooden trestle and covered bridge spanning the Kentucky River, just down from the falls near the paper mill. It's this bridge which was the victim of a catastrophic fire and likely the most dramatic event in Bennington's railroad history.
On April 30th, 1965, the B&M local freight to Hillsborough passed through the bridge with SW1 number 1122 leading. Hot brakes on the locomotive, no doubt from the downgrade just before the bridge, sparked a fire which soon consumed the entire structure. The local freight was marooned in Hillsborough while the Boston and Maine scrambled to install a replacement structure. They did so in short order, a matter of days, freeing the trapped local freight. In effect, a steel span replaced the covered bridge portion, but the rest of the bridge remained essentially the same, and does to this day.
Freight service was provided to Bennington for many years, several times a week, by the Boston and Maine with its Nashua-based Hillsborough branch local freight. Locomotives were almost always lightweight, primarily Alco S-Series switchers or EMD SW1s, due to a lightweight ancient steel trestle located at South Lineborough. In 1973, service north of Bennington from Monadnock Paper to Hillsborough was abandoned, and the tracks were formally abandoned in 1979. About 1982-1983, the bridge at South Lineborough was replaced in a project that was actually funded by Monadnock Paper, and this allowed larger locomotives and freight cars to ply the line. Bright blue EMD GP7s and GP9s ran locals to Monadnock Paper, common camera fodder for rail fans like Bruce Davison and Brent Michaels. Unfortunately, rail service here to Bennington ended in 1986 during the famous employee strike under Guilford Transportation ownership. Although a train hasn't ventured this far since then. The line is occasionally used by motor cars of the Cotton Valley Rail Trail Club several times a year. Occasionally, rumors circulate about the resumption of rail service this far on the Hillsborough branch to the paper mill, but that's a truth that the future will have to hold.